Good evening, everyone. Wow, such an honor and privilege to be part of this exciting evening, honoring so many accomplished women. I'd like to congratulate each of you while you're seated there. And of course, to this beautiful panel who's seated with me, I want to say you inspire us, you motivate us to do better, to work harder, to carve a niche for ourselves in this very competitive world, and as Lalitam said, in a very male-dominated industry or world. So I'm going to begin today by asking them a couple of questions. My first prompt will be something which is common to all, which is hurdles for success. And of course, in the second, I will ask a specific question because I think they're all from different industries, and so we have a wealth of experience on this stage, and they will be able to share a different viewpoint from a woman's perspective. So, good evening. My first question, and we can start either this way or the other way, would be, what are some of the hurdles or the challenges that you have faced generally or in a male-dominated industry? You can pick any which you like. So anybody would like to start, or maybe we can start with Afifa?
Hi everyone, good evening. It's so good to see all of you all here. Hurdles in a way starts from your house itself. So I won't say that male dominancy here acts. I feel the female themselves are more, challenge to face in a family. जैसे मैंने कितनी फैमिलियों में देखा है जहाँ पर सासें होती है, उनको सिर्फ बेटियाँ नहीं चाहिए होती, उनको सिर्फ बेटे चाहिए. वो नहीं चाहती कि हमारी घर की औरतें काम करें. तो मैं चाहती हूँ कि हम वुमेन, हम खुद हमारा माइंडसेट सबसे पहले चेंज करें. हम अपने बच्चों को पढ़ाएं, हम हमारी लड़कियों को कहें कि उनको जो, जैसे हम हमारे बेटे को कहते हैं कि तुझे जो बनना है तू बन, वही चीज़ हम हमारी बेटियों से कहें कि उनको जो बनना है वो बने, वो बाहर जाए. दुनिया बहुत बड़ी है, आज तो हर इंडस्ट्री में आप देखिए औरतें काम कर रही है. अब ये पुराने 80 years की लाइफ हम नहीं जी रहे. वी आर इन 2020 जहाँ पर घर घर में औरतें काम करती है. और मुझे लगता है कि भगवान ने जब खुद औरतों को बनाया था तो उन्होंने मेल से ज़्यादा हमें स्ट्रॉन्गर बनाया था. इसीलिए उन्होंने कहा कि बच्चा पैदा करने का हक मैं सिर्फ औरतों को दूंगा. तो जब हम इतने स्ट्रॉन्ग हैं, I don't think so that any male can dominate any of us. We are way more superior than all of them. That's what I feel.
Thank you. Afifa.
Okay, great. So your question was, what hurdles did I face? Well, I've been introduced here on the platform, but let me tell you a very quick story about my life pattern. Okay, I started. My father was an army officer, so we traveled and shifted every 3 years. I've studied in 7 different schools in 7 different states. Finally, when I passed out of my 12th standard, I was not a domicile of any state. And hence, my father, coming from a middle class background, told me that if you could clear entrance, you could study further, or you could do whatever you wish to, I can get you married, right? From there on, I did mechanical engineering, where out of 70, a class of 70, we were 2 girls. From there, I joined a multinational, European multinational, which was into compressor manufacturing. So I was a mechanical engineer, did my MBA from Symbiosis. This was a company which was, though a Swedish multinational company, but had never ever employed a woman. So they interviewed me 5 different times, and every time they told me, and the then general manager told me, you're extremely good, but we'll think and come back to you. On the 5th time, when I told them that, why do you call me back? Because if you don't want to employ me, why do you every time call me back? So he turned around and told me, see, we are a Swedish company and we have heavy pressure from the Europeans to maintain a gender diversity in the company, and we know that women will not survive this company. I worked in this company for 8 long years. This company is called Atlas Copco. I'm very happy to say that I changed my visiting card 6 times while I was in the company. And I was considered something called as high pot, which is high potential. And the best thing is that today, when I look back about 16 years ago, I left that company. There are 400 women employed with that company. And I think not only me, but yes, the company now knows what diversity is all about. From there on, I moved on. I come from a service background, so I told my father that I'm going to want to become an entrepreneur. So he said, I can't even pronounce that word. What the hell does that mean? I said, I want to be an employer. So he turned around and told me, "Tum business karogi? Hamare pure khandaan mein kisi ne business nahi kiya." So I said yes. I started my first company with 3 people. We have about 3 companies now. And we are 3,500 people worldwide with 6 centers across the globe. Post that, I stepped into, and I met this very interesting gentleman in 2007. His name was Narendra Bhai Modi. He was the Chief Minister of Gujarat back then. And I got inspired. And the next person I met was called Devendra Fadnavis. I worked with him for the past 8 years. I was his advisor. I'm also the spokesperson for Bharatiya Janata Party. Yes, again, it's a man's world in politics. I'm a complete outsider. I come from a very, very non-political background. But yes, I've stood on my own. And to cut the story short, because I know a lot of people have to speak after me, I think the biggest hurdle for women are not having enough women idols in the industry and in the industry that they choose. And hence women tend to look up to men, and that's why they turn to become men in their workspaces. All I want to tell to the women today is, remember, I always tell them, it's not a man versus woman world. It's very unfortunate that as women, we can choose to wear the pant and the shirt, but men can never wear the sari. So be proud to be a woman. Just carry your head and your standard as high as you carry your heels. And that's it. I think all hurdles will be behind you.
Thank you, Shweta. I think I want to commend Atlas for taking that first step in actually employing a woman, and that's where you are now from. And behind every successful man, they say, is a woman. So that proves from whatever you've been through. I'll next move on to Ms. Roma to share her hurdle or challenge.
So thank you, and I'm very happy to be here with all of you all. Again, a little bit of story, going back in time when the country had the partition, parents shifted from Pakistan to India. But what I recall is the fact that my mother was a teacher. I mentioned to you that she was a teacher in Sindh, and she came with her own thought process. She had to look after a joint family, and that's where I was born. So I want to take this opportunity to actually thank her for letting me be born. Because with a family which had a lot of financial pressures, she had one child, which was my elder brother. And what I hear from my grandmother, that when she was pregnant and I was supposed to be born, she was in 2 minds. She said, I have a family to look after. There's a second child coming in the family. And do you think that I should have this child? And my grandmother, who was again married at 13 and lost her husband, that's my grandfather. And she said, that child comes with her own destiny. We don't know who that child is, but don't ever think like that child will not be wanted or will not be cared. So today, in her memory, I really thank her that I'm sitting tall in front of all of you all, having done my little bit in life, having given back to society all my life since the time I started work, and that has been one kind of inspiration, the mother, the family who really inspired me to take on challenges. I went to college and I told my father, you can't afford my college. What would you do? So he said, no, you're my daughter and I want to educate you. And I said, can I switch to morning college? Because I don't think the family finances help us. And I switched. I went to the best school. I went to the best college. I still remember when I was interviewed by Mr. Anand Mahindra for the job that I did for a decade. The only thing he asked me, he says, Roma, your true value comes from the school, the education that you had, and the college you went, and what you learned at home. That's all I need. I mean, that's my communications manager. So I think these are values which help you overcome any hurdles that you can face in life. It gives you the self-confidence right from the time that you are born. So take that as your birthright, because that's important. The world will always be unfair, but make it a fair world for yourself. So with those words, I'm sure my fellow panelist will entertain us more. Thank you.
Thank you, Roma. Nice to hear those words. As an educator, I'm feeling totally on top of the world right now. Thank you.
Good evening. Thank you. It is a pleasure to be here. I think I kind of have lots of learning coming from here. But to begin with, I think since I've born, my grandfather told me one thing, that tujhe officer banna. I mean, he came from those years where he was a mayor of Gwalior in Madhya Pradesh. And he always looked back at me and said that, you know what, you will not sit at home, you need to make it big somewhere, somehow. To give you a background, I was born in a recent family where I'm two sisters, me and my sister. We have been into the car industry from last over literally 5 decades, for four generations. Coming there and seeing how it happens, the business was always on the mind, and it was a great passion to look up to myself being seated on the chair that one day. Coming there with all that my father had dreamt for me. But when I came into the real world, I did my master's in SP Jain in FMB. That was the very first step that he took to make me believe that I can get into a family managed business, which was highly male dominated within the family as well. I had my brother, my uncle who were part of the business. Family managed business of SP Jain is a very specific platform where already young entrepreneurs having some sizable business join in. So he had the belief that I will make it there someday. First interview, first GD in SP Jain was, are you here to find the right boy for you? And I was laughing at them. I said, sir, I don't know if I can prove it today, but probably a decade down, you look back at me and will be proud of me. I think that was the starting, that was the beginning where I got to do what I really wanted to do. It was simple in terms of things being very ready-made for me. I didn't have to work that hard. But yes, the drive, the passion to do it bigger than what he's done is something that started from SP Jain. And I realized how world was so different. I was so much in comfort when I was home. Moving next, the minute I got into business, on the very day, I was reporting to my uncle. And he said, "Tu kaun hai? Tu manager nahi hai. You are somebody who needs to work, learn, and then take a position." I was genuinely put as a trainee, mishandled by a lot of men then, saying that, "Ma'am, आप आज हो कल नहीं हो, आपकी शादी हो जाएगी. फिर आपको क्या करना है सीख के? You come, you go, it's fine. Yeah, you're our support. But there's not much for you to learn. It's an ongoing business." So, while we look at things that everything is so easy for them, everything's available to them, I don't think. Women have their own set of things that come their way, and you always have to deal with it. Although I believe that there is nothing like a male and female dominant, for me it was something that I loved. I really thought that this is something I want to be, and the minute you ignore the atmosphere, the people around you, I think the best can come out of you. So we need not be somebody else. We need not think of ourselves as somebody who's inferior to others. I think dreams are dreams for every person, be it male or female, and we should just live it. We should just enjoy it.
Thank you so much. That was really from the heart. And I think from this first round, I would just say that I think next time you're looking at a hoarding, think who a real hero is. I think some of them are sitting right next to me. They may not be on the hoarding tomorrow that you see on your way back home or on your way to work. So let's begin. I'm going to ask some specific questions now, since I mentioned they're all from different industries. So maybe let's start with Shweta. I think voices matter in the industry that she is. So ma'am, can you tell us what are the qualities that a woman needs to maybe join politics or be in politics? And what has been your greatest strength?
Extremely good question. Thank you so much for that question. I think when I was very young, my father taught me, and of course, I think you said it right. I always say this, that behind every successful man is a woman, but behind every successful woman is a whole society. You know, it's a whole society. It's a team, and it starts with your father. So, you know, my father, when I was very young, he taught me something. He used to say, "Tum Rajni ki chand banogi, ya din ki martand prakhar." So Rajni is Raat and Chand. Tum Rajni ki chand banogi, ya din ki martand prakhar, which is din ka suraj banogi. एक बात है मुझे पूछनी, फूल बनोगी या पत्थर? नकली क्रीम तेल कंघी से अपना रूप सजाओगी या असली तेज लहू का आनन पर चमकाओगी? आनन is face. So basically, the real you is what takes you ahead. And be it any industry. In politics, the way to enter is the same for women that it is to enter a mechanical industry like Mahindra, or to start a dealership, or to get into film line. I think the struggles are the same. The fact is that irrespective of everything else, there is one person who will fight the battle for you, and that is you yourself. And hence, believe. Do something that you really believe in, and believe it with all your heart, with all your passion. And you should know that this is what I will give everything for, and it will come to you. The only fact is, you need to believe, because half the women somewhere out there do not believe that they can make it happen. It's the women that run the world. And go, open your eyes and look around. The worst of the jobs in agriculture are done by women. The women that come to your house actually run their homes and your homes. There are women who have, and in India, historically, we have been power centers. Just think back and think. Didn't your dadis and your nannies decide where your father or you will go and study? What will be made at home? Empowerment is not an Indian terminology. Our women have always been Shaktis. The fact is that these three specific segments of Lakshmi, Saraswati and Durga, each woman should have control of these three ministries. And that's when I think every woman's voice, Saraswati, which means you need to be educated. It is Lakshmi, which means you need to be financially strong and independent. And it is Durga, which means you need to stand up for your own defense. And that's it. That's it, period. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am, for sharing that. I like the touch to the Indian mythology and going back to our roots and values. So maybe I'm going to throw the next question back to Afifa. I think you come from the film industry.
That's right.
And I was just reading about you, and I heard about the film that you've done, Girlfriend, and it had rave reviews. So my question to you is, how can films become a medium to inspire or motivate women, or even send out those messages which the society, as she said, behind everybody is a society, can change the kind of assumptions we hold for women today?
In many ways, films have already started doing what you are saying, and there are so many people with movies which are women-oriented. If you see the kind of movie that Kangana is doing today, or if you see even Deepika, and you will see the evolvement which has happened in the industry, the kind of clothes that they wear, you know, and people get inspired by them, the way they take care of themselves. I think all this eventually also affects people's life and perspectives. And कितनी सारी पिक्चर आप देखिए, उसमें माँ दुर्गा भी बने हैं हम, शक्ति भी बने हैं हम, बिचारी भी बने हैं हम, हमने लड़े भी हैं, हमने जंग भी जीती है. So I think film is already doing the job.
Thank you, Afifa. So real versus real, or real versus real, I think it's a debate that will be always on. Okay, so maybe my next question is for Miss Roma Balwani. So Roma and I share something in common. We both went to Harvard, and I was talking to her, and I think the H in the Harvard, I think, for me always has stood for being honest, being humble, and I think being a hero for someone else. And I think Roma's done that. Nandgarh, that is one of her projects at Vedanta, is really going global. So I want to ask Roma, what has been that one breakthrough moment for you as a woman in this corporate industry, and what has been your source of inspiration?
So I go back to the industry that I started with. It's again manufacturing. It was a company called Larsen and Toubro where I started my career. And that was one place where I did not know my potential. I started from the ranks. I didn't know that I could reach where I did at Larsen and Toubro. But I had a boss who, I mean, a man that I can still shed tears if I think of him. He was such a soul, such an evolved soul, that at the age of 19 that I was studying my college through that, and he gave me my first break in a corporate role, and he said, find your potential. I said, there are all MBAs over here, they're all young men around me. I won't be able to do a man's job. I don't have the confidence to do the man's job. He said, you will. And I'm going to get you there, and I'm going to put you out there in the man's world. And that's what he did. He just picked me up from where I was. He says, you are meant for more. And I said, how could you say that? He says, ask me. I can see talent, which I didn't know. But thanks to him, I went into the man's world. I studied, I did my post-graduation. Like you said, we did the Harvard course. And I think that's what really gave me that confidence that you can be what you want and you can dream big. And I remember this one statement when I left the L&T job. He actually called my husband, why is Roma leaving her job? He says, you think I can influence her to leave the job? I had my daughter born at that time. I'm still proud of the fact that I did leave my job to look after my daughter. I took that decision myself, not because my husband prompted. I took a setback in my career for 6 years, but those 6 years really bloomed me as a creative person. I became an ad filmmaker. I did lots of things that my own creativity and potential came out, but that was one side of the story. What really helped me is moving on in the corporate life, climbing those ladders. Frankly, I didn't face any glass ceiling. I think I possibly created an aura where I didn't let men think that I couldn't be more than their equal in a room. I think once you get that self-confidence and once you get that aura around you, nobody can really touch you. You may be, in your heart, sometimes you may be not as confident, but if you portray that confidence, you can't go wrong. So that's what I did for myself. I got that confidence, I showed that confidence, I learned on the job. I must say the men in my life helped me. This was this lovely boss, my adorable husband who said you can do it, And you know, it's just the family support and the men in your life that give you that confidence. I've always been so fortunate with that. And then when I got a job with Mahindra's, we had gone off to Norway, we were living abroad. I kept changing my job where my husband got transferred. And every time, you know, opportunity knocks at your door. If somebody sees talent, they just find you. Probably I was at the right place at the right time. I got the opportunities in a small place like Jamshedpur, to a big place like Calcutta, moved back to Bombay, went off to Oslo. I became a communications director in Oslo. Now that is a place which is the first world country, and there was the then ambassador Gopal Krishna Gandhi, who was, of course, you meet them socially. He says, Roma, you need to do something here. You can't be just sitting. I said, but look at the world that it is today. IT companies which are there in India today have got such a bad name. This was in 2003 to 2004. And how do you change that whole brand perception? And he said, Roma, you can do it. So we started, both of us started getting onto our website, changed the website, brought in IT companies, because what had happened was, in the early days, some of the Indian companies had come, worked for the government, and left the projects halfway. If you go back to Norway, they'll always say this was this one lady who came from a land of tigers and snakes and everything. You can't believe these people. They've never been out of Norway. They haven't been out of any of a Scandinavian country. And they see this exotic woman coming to their office and selling them what I had to do, education. And that's how, you know, things went on for me. I came back. I joined Mahindra's at that time. Had a lovely tenure. Mahindra Rise is one of my best projects that I did with them. I was ready to retire. And then came this opportunity with Vedanta. And I must say, with two very charismatic chairmen, both at the two ends of the spectrum. One, an earthy man who has grown from the ranks, Mr. Anil Agarwal, who has done phenomenal for his business and for the country. Nandghar was his dream. Nandghar came from where she mentioned our Prime Minister, Mr. Narendra Modi. When our chairman visited Gujarat, he saw these Anganwadis in a very bad shape. And he asked, that time he was the CM, he says, why are these not really flourishing? He says, I have built 10 such Anganwadis for children and women, and these are the model ones. Will you be able to replicate that for me? And he was the CM at that time. So time went by, he moved on, he became the Prime Minister. Anil Agarwal remembered that. He went back to him and said, I will build those Anganwadis, and what should I name them? And the Prime Minister gave that lead and said, these are for children, call them Nandghars. So that's when we started building, and it was one of the state-of-the-art infrastructure. I would urge all of you all, volunteer, go to a Nandghar. It's one of the best that you could see. We have created 1,250 such Nandghars who look after the children. They're the most beautiful locations that even the community around, they feel that's their focal place. That's where they can go and have a little chat. You know, in the evenings when the Nandghar is closed, you'll see the community going around it because it's such a beautiful place. And that is something which makes us feel proud of the organization, that you're giving back. So Vedanta or Mahindra, it was the Nanikali, and for Vedanta it's the Nandghar. I think for me both those projects have given me the opportunity to give back. In my own space, I support deaf cricket, which is something that I love, and I like to support disability. And I have managed to do the first deaf cricket world tournament in India. And I succeeded in doing that. And so I'm gratified that women like us can give back, and women like us can do good for society. That's been my journey.
Thank you, Roma. There's so much passion in your voice, and I think as they say, if you do not have a dream, you cannot have a dream come true. So I think Nandghar kind of proves that. You wear many hats. So with the many hats, my next question is to Nidhi. Nidhi, you're a wife and a mother. How do you balance home and work? I think a very common question asked to most ladies, but I think I wanted to ask this question to somebody.
Honestly, if you ask me about being a mother or a wife, I don't think it as a balance. It is something that I always wanted to do, right? I mean, if you start looking at it as two different work, it's going to be quite complicated. It's just something that I like. I like being a mother. I like working. I was extremely passionate, like I said. Two easily available things in front of me, but had to continue the legacy. All this has become a part of me. I enjoyed, I loved, I cherished every moment, being at home, being at work, raising up a child now. I have a second child who's 5 months old. So with that, I've come back to business immediately in a 1 month's time. That is all that I can say, that, you know, when you want to do something in life, you need to remove time. You need to plan yourself. You need to plan your day. And it's as easy as that. I mean, you don't need to compromise or balance anything in life. Whenever you like something, you love something, you will always find time for yourself. And that's what I do.
Thank you so much for saying that. I think what I can sum up from this is, I think, and Priyanka Chopra said it very well at one of her UN things, that what a woman really needs to wear well is her confidence. So with that, I just throw this open to any one person who'd like to share one advice for the women of today.
So as I said, with my own experience, it is to find your inner self, your potential, have that confidence, have that aura, but also have that discipline. When you have that discipline, you'll be able to achieve much more. So all I'm saying is, create that aura around you. You know, somebody asked me a question that, how do you dress when you go for a certain occasion or at work? Is it that you dress as you please? I said, no. You don't dress as you please. You dress for the occasion. So keep remembering small little things which make your personality. And if you do that with confidence, I think the world is at your feet.
Can I add something?
Sure, please.
One thing that I would definitely want to add is, nothing in this world is free. There are absolutely no free lunches. I think Indra Nooyi said it, that you know, women can't have it all. I always say this, no one can have it all. And hence, please understand that the journey from that chair to this podium takes a lot of effort. While you were sleeping, I was working. While you were dreaming, I was implementing my dream. Where you was thinking, where you started thinking, I was already doing what I really wanted to do. And hence, please get up, do. Because enough of talking. The fact remains that the one who works hard is the one who gets extremely lucky. So that's where you should stand as a woman. And remember, as a woman, you will have to work extra hard. But do that because you have to prove a point, and you have to live a life, and you have to live your dream. Thank you.
Thank you. Sure.
Can I end this conversation by saying that a wise lady said, women is a full circle in life. We create, we nurture, and we transform. Nobody can reach our limits. We can do better than the best. Thank you.
Thank you, everybody. I think I'd like all the women in the room to say I'm worth it, because I think we are worth it, and I'll end it with that. Don't let anybody tell you that there are set paths to follow, because every little girl with a passion is an inspiring woman of tomorrow. So on that note, thank you, everybody. Thank you to all the panelists for sharing your stories, and of course to RVCJ and Times Applaud. Thank you so much.